Hey, it's Nicole. I wanted to just personally thank everybody for the overwhelming support, love, the fasting, the prayers, the kind messages, the encouragement. Oh my gosh, food, bringing food to the hospital. Oh my, the list goes on and on and on. Just thank you. I know it took a while for me to get around to making this video because it was a lot going on. Like, um, everything happened so fast, so suddenly, so unexpected, and in the middle of the storm that you don't know whether you're going to come out of it or not. You know, well, I had faith I was coming out of it, but at the same token, like, I didn't know when the end was going to be. Okay, so um yeah, I just had to focus. I had to focus. So now that everything is good, we're in the clear, I'm like, let me just hop on and share our testimony and what happened. So, okay. Where do I even start? Because I feel like it's about to be long story long. Um, all right. So it was the 100th day of school. We were super excited to go. I went on Pinterest and like found, oh, this about to be long if I'm going to tell it like that. Okay, so whatever, I went on Pinterest and I found, and I was just looking for outfits for a 6-year old, so a kindergartner, to wear to the 100th day of school and what to do. Like, they had 100 Cheerios, all this other stuff. So we found a little cute little outfit. We went to Walmart, got him an old man outfit, and he was ready. Like, I had the gray hair, great eyebrows, a newspaper because I get the Wall Street Journal to the house. Of course I do. Like, stop playing. So I was like, here, here's a newspaper. It goes with it. Like, don't worry. So anyway, we get to school and it was my first time going in the office because your girl was not trying to go in the office. I was trying to be remote as long as I could. But I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to drop you off. I'm going to go in the office. So as I dropped him off, he wasn't really feeling that great, but he was like, Mommy, I want to go. I was like, you sure? And I said, okay. And I stuck around a little bit in the classroom because I just felt, things were just off. And then everyone else, when he got there, everyone else was dancing and playing, and he was just kind of sitting off. I'm like, that is not him, because we are bursts of energy. Like, no coffee needed, no alcohol needed. I'm always on 10, so is he. So what happened? Anyway, the teacher calls me. 10 minutes later, I'm like in the middle of almost downtown in DC. Teachers calls me and says, hey, look, you really need to come right now. He's projectile vomiting. I'm like, what? It's like, something's really wrong. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. Like, I turn around, I'm in front of the Capitol and I got that call and I turned around, got there in like seconds. I don't know how I got there that fast, but I got there that fast. And I'm like, is he cool? He was like, Mommy, I'm good. I can stay. And I said, you sure you can stay? He was like, yeah, I'm good. I can stay. I'm like, okay. So I talked to the teacher. She was like, no, he needs to go. There were 3 other children that projectile vomited Friday. This is on a Wednesday. And it wasn't good. They ended up having like a stomach bug. So at this point, nobody told me that kindergarten was full of germs. Like, nobody told me about the snotty nose, the coughing, the this, the that. So in December, Christian comes home. He's projectile vomiting. Well, he wasn't. Was he? No, he wasn't projectile vomiting. He was just vomiting. So I'm that mom, like, if you bleeding, whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to take care, we got to go, we got to do this. Like, I'm jumping on top of it. So we get to urgent care. We find out he has a stomach virus. Everybody else is good. So for me, taking care of him, 2 days later, I ended up having stomach virus. He was vomiting and had a fever. They gave him nausea medicine. I ended up having the whole shabazz, like, TMI. It was coming out of both ends, okay? I was mad at I was mad at kindergarten. I was mad at the school. I'm like, why nobody sent a letter home? Like, I'm on the toilet and the with the trash can right in front of me, like going at it. My bad, but whatever. Like, I'm sure if you ever been there, like, I called God so many times. I was sweating. I was just like, yo, you don't need to go to school no more. Like, I was so mad. So when I got to this, anyway, so that with what happened in December, I was on top of it. We went to urgent care, gave us nausea medicine, went home, Tylenol broke the fever. So I'm thinking, okay, whatever. We did this before, met at all of y'all, shaking my finger like tisk, whatever. I know how to deal with this. Let's just go home. Didn't even want to go in the office anyway, so let's go. Like, and I gave him the nausea medicine. He stopped vomiting. No. Before I gave him the nausea medicine, there's actually a video that I took because I was showing his dad what was going on, and I was picking him up from school. And as I'm recording the video, he just does like this, and vomit goes all on my hair, to from the car seat in the back of the car all the way to the front of the car on like the console, my the gear, what is it called, driver, I can't think right now. Who cares, y'all know what I'm talking about. You ain't shift the gears, daggone it. It was full of vomit, my coat, everything, sleeves, vomit everywhere. Like, he's in the back seat, I'm looking at the dashboard, it's vomit on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was something out of like a scary movie. And I was just like, you know. But I'm like, okay, I'm thinking we've been here before, so let me just get you home, get some Tylenol, give you the nausea medicine. Nausea medicine stops all the vomiting, and I'm thinking that's the biggest feat that we have. Other than that, like, it's just a fever. Let's just give some Tylenol to break it. So we're resting, we're at home. His What happened after that? Oh, okay, so later on that night, we get, what happened? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing blanks, but I'm back. So later on that night, he gets a fever that goes all the way up to like 103, and at this point I'm concerned. No, it didn't go to 103. It was about 100, and I was like, okay, well, let me sleep next to him. So his fever ended up climbing to overnight, which I didn't know of, because he had a seizure, and he's never had a seizure in his life. It was so scary. I felt like when a little being has something, like, as a mom, you want to be able to just do to help your child. And at that moment, I realized that I don't know CPR. I maybe know the Heimlich because common sense just makes you just do, haven't had to use it. Yeah, like all the things, and I didn't know exactly what to do for a seizure, but when someone says, oh, make sure they don't choke, make sure they don't chew and swallow their tongue. I remember hearing that as a kid. Found out that was actually false. Don't put nothing in nobody's mouth as a seizure. If that's having a seizure, don't do that. But that's what I thought. So I hear in my head as I'm looking like freaking out, because I'm like, what can I do? What do I do? Like, I'm hearing in my head, you're losing seconds. So I hurry up and grab my phone, call 911, tell them where we are. They're going through the whole CPR thing. I'm running downstairs to go open up the front door. And as I'm running down the stairs, I hear God clear as day say, specific word. It was a specific word, but I said, he's okay. He's okay. He's good. And I'm like, okay, you don't look like it. So I run back upstairs to check on him. And at this point, he's not breathing. He's not breathing. He's like, and he like stays in that and doesn't breathe for a little longer than I'm comfortable with. So I screamed the loudest scream I've ever heard in my life. And I'm freaking out. Well, no, the person on the phone was not freaked out at all. But yeah, and he's like stiff. It was bad. It was a bad sight. So I don't know how the police I'm here. I'm trying to tell a story. Okay, we're here. So the police came first and they start taking over. They do the CPR, do whatever, but I don't think he needed CPR. I think he just needed to be on a flat surface as he was having a seizure so that he wouldn't hurt himself. Um Not sure what the non-breathing thing was, because at that point, like, I was downstairs just trying to make sure like the ambulance knew where to go, blah blah. After the police officer came. So I grabbed his coat. They took off his clothes because his fever was really high. At that point, it was like 130.7 or 130.110 or something. I don't know. Um, so they took his clothes off, his shirt off, left his shorts on or pants on, and he's getting carried like a rag doll, to the ambulance. But I heard God say he was good. But what I see is, oh, yeah. So we get to the hospital. No, I get in the ambulance and his eyes are just rolled to the back of his head. And he's not responding to his name, nothing. He's just sitting there and um, the paramedics was talking to me and they were smiling and just trying to just be calm. And so, excuse me, they ended up, what happened? Okay, so at that point, I'm talking to my baby as if nothing is wrong, and that just took so much strength. So they gave him a cute little teddy bear, which he still has. He ended up, when he finally woke up 7 weeks later, fast forward, he ended up naming that teddy bear Mr. Mike. It's really cute. I don't even know where he got it from, but he calls him Mike. So, she just had, anyway, the EMT gave him a teddy bear because she just had so much compassion for him. And the whole entire time, we were just blessed with so many people that just opened their hearts to us and to Christian, whether he was awake or not, and loved on him and poured out to him. So that was just step one, was this a teddy bear. And the reason why the teddy bear for me was so significant was because at that moment, he's like a doll, like dangling in the EMT's arm, the paramedic's arms. He's on the stretcher with his eyes kind of rolled up to the back of his head, like just out of it. And when she gave him that teddy bear, he clenches it, still with his eyes up. And I said, my baby's good. Like, I'm saying, like, Lord, you said he was good. He's good. And I'm like, like a little bit of relief. I didn't all the way, like, lose, because my breath was all up in here. It wasn't nowhere down. I don't even know if anything of my body got oxygen. I don't even care. But I felt a little bit of breath go, So I'm like, okay. He held it. He's there. Okay, cool. So we're in the, we get to the ER. What did I do? I think that at this point now I'm sending messages out. I'm telling everybody what's going on so they know. And then I'm talking to him from 11 a.m. I fell asleep a little bit, but I was falling asleep like in a chair, sitting straight up. It was so awkward, but whatever. I needed that like rest so my mind can I think I probably had like 5 or 10 minutes of sleep before people came back in. But I needed it so my mind can just be more alert, because it was at that point, I think the night before I really didn't get any sleep. So since we were up anyway, let me go back. We're in the ER and he got his teddy bear. I'm talking to him normal as if nothing is wrong at all. Like he's alert, which he's not. He's still out of it. His eyes are closing now, so he's falling out of sleep. And from what they were saying, his brain just needed to recover and just needs to rest, and that's what we saw. He gets MRIs to see like why did he have a seizure? Is he like seizure prone? Never had a seizure. Never had severe complications with nothing, no health issues, nothing. Like this is just all new. So at this point, what happened? I think I took like a quick 5 minute nap because I'm sitting up in the chair and it was so uncomfortable. I remember, oh my gosh, I can't even get the story out. So what happened at that point? So he didn't talk to me from 11 p.m. He wasn't alert from 11 p.m. 6 a.m. At this point, from me getting up and going to work, I have been up for 24 hours. Okay, 24 hours straight. And he finally spoke at 6:30 a.m. because they were taking his vitals again. And when they put the thing, I did see it. Like she had her gloves on and she was trying to pick up the thing that goes over the thermometer. And I saw that like some of the dust got on it, and I was just like, well, he's sleeping. I shouldn't say anything. Like a part of me wanted to say something, but I didn't. And I was like, the dust from the gloves. The dust from the gloves got on it. And I was like, ooh, should I say something? Because I know that's not going to taste right. But I'm like, you know what? He's not even up, so go for it. You know, it was clean. So she puts it in his mouth, and he goes, ugh. And I'm like, oh, my baby. Oh, my gosh. Hi, Christian. And he's like, you know, I'm like, oh, my gosh. So that was just so rewarding to see. Then after that, they said, you know what, he's going to need a lot more care than what we can do. We were waiting for them to transport us to Children's National in Washington, D.C. So, we get transported to Children's National immediately. We went to the neurology department in their hospital care. So, while we're on their floor, they put like all these like things all over his head to test his brain waves and just to see like, you know, seizures. They gave him a test with it like flashing lights in his eyes. And this came from a mom that when he has like a nosebleed, I'm freaking out. Like, oh, the nose, it won't stop. Like, and now I'm sitting here seeing him get flashes in his eyes. So I'm like holding my breath because I'm like, okay, so if he is seizure prone and every time you like, it's white light getting flashed in his face, that means it could activate at any moment. Whoa, I don't want to see that again. That was really hard. I just experienced that trauma. That was crazy. Let's not. But he ended up just watching it. He was good. Um, Christian was restored. Like he just seemed like he was normal. The only issue was he was very lethargic and still had a high fever. So they gave him Tylenol around the clock. Fever broke. We were just at this point we were just hanging out watching Bluey on the hospital TV. We then get word that they're about to discharge us, and I think we have been in the hospital probably for like 3 4 days, and they were no 3 days maybe, 3 days, and they were going to discharge us. But then I kept looking at him, and he just kept sleeping. He kept vomiting, like anything would just make him vomit. He would just do like just all day long. We just had so many vomit bags. So I'm excited to go home, but I notice he's breathing a little funny, and I hear something say, um, his breathing's off. Oh, I heard God say his breathing's off. My bad. So I go get the doctor, and I was like, hey, and it was like, well, I checked his lungs, I checked everything, and it seemed like everything is normal. And I'm like, no, 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 something's off. Check again. So then I also heard God talk about pneumonia, and I was just like I can hear it clearly. And I'm like, oh no. So I'm praying against pneumonia, and I'm like, maybe it's just for me for a warning to pray against. They check his lungs. It sounds clear. Like that's the crazy part. It sounds so clear to a point they were going to let us leave the hospital. We get the doctor, the nurses come in. They pull an x-ray of his chest. We saw his lungs were complete. Like on the x-ray, your lungs are supposed to be black. Not black because it's dark, but black because it's clear. We can see completely through them. The opacity in his lungs were gray, like he was holding in a puff of smoke every single area of his lungs. It was severe. We were losing time sitting in there worried about his brain when his brain was just fine, when we should have been focusing here. And if it wasn't for me noticing his breathing, like when your child is having issues with breathing, that you need to go to the, oh, and then also his oxygen was dropping down to like almost 80 something, and it should be 100%. The 90s, high 90s are good, but never 80. That means you're struggling to breathe. So warning signs are, you'll see problems like um whoever is having a breathing issue, their nose will flare every time they take a breath. You'll see them gasping for air really tight in their neck, or their stomach will just keep collapsing as they're breathing. Like, those are some warning signs that someone needs oxygen, and that's really important. It's for your bloodstream, for everything. It's really important. So I didn't know that then, but now that you know, I've been in the hospital for 10 weeks, I'm a little bit of an expert, okay? So I just wanted to make sure I shared. Um, so anyway, the doctor was like, "Oh my gosh," and they're looking at me and they're looking at him like, and I'm looking at them like, I don't know what to do when you do it. I just know my baby. So they instead of just putting the oxygen in his nostril, they just elevated to the mask. So they throw him a mask, an oxygen mask on, and we're like hightailing it down to ICU. So like we went from like regular part of the hospital ish to the ICU in no time. And we were in like this shared room with other children, and at that point all I remember was, I think before that, the night before we left or something like that, I just said, you know what, it was like a reason I was here. So I prayed over that whole entire hospital. I prayed over every child there, and like their healing, and then also Christian's healing as well. And I prayed over the parents. So when we got down to the ICU, the PICU, pediatrics ICU, he was on the mask, but he started to like scream while he was in the mask. It was just weird, like the way things was just happening, because although it was helping him and his oxygen levels was going higher, like it was going up, but they weren't. Like it was about 90 something, and you have on an oxygen mask, and they turned it all the way up to 5. Like that's a lot of oxygen that you're taking in. And not only that, but it wasn't helping. It was, at that point, if you have it all the way up to 5, all right, so the oxygen level, you can get 0 oxygen, 1, 2, 3, or 5. He had it all the way up turned to 5 because he needed a lot. I don't even know what that means in medical terms. I'm just explaining it in the hood terms of what I just went through. So if the assumption for me is, if you're all the way maxed out on oxygen and you have the whole mask on, it should help. Your oxygen should now read 100%, but it still wasn't reading 100%. It was reading 92. So because of that, and then not only that, but as he's sitting there, his fever did break. Yeah, his fever broke. And he screamed in the mask. Like, he was like screaming in the mask because he didn't want it on. He wanted to take it off. I was like, baby, you can't take it off. I'm sorry. And he kept looking at me, and I wanted to take it off, and I wanted to give him a break on it, but I knew that it was turned all the way up. I'm like, I don't want to take the chance of taking it off. Like, I do want to give you a break to breathe, but you are breathing. Like, it's okay. So he started screaming into the mask, and it was just abnormal. So I told the doctors about it, and they checked on it. I'm not even sure what happened because I needed to step out because they said that he needed a blood transfusion. And I don't know, I cannot exactly remember why, but I think it was because, I can go read the chart. I think it was because he wasn't getting enough oxygen into his bloodstream. So that means that like you have too much CO2 levels in there, and you can potentially like poison your blood. I don't know. I checked out because like my baby got a mask on. Like, he's screaming, he's not acting like himself. you know. That was a lot for me, and I thought this was the worst of it. Like, we're in ICU. Like, he has lines in his arms and stuff. I just thought that was the worst of it, and kind of found out it wasn't. So the ICU doctors look at his x-ray and they found fluid on his lungs. They had to install a chest tube about, maybe, I don't know, can y'all see me? Probably like this thick into his left side. That's not my left. This is my left. Into his left side, and then not only to drain it out because his lung collapsed. Not only that, they had to install a ventilator down his throat to help him breathe because he was not breathing well. His lungs couldn't handle it on its own because they were severely sick and they were severely weak, and the bottoms of both of his lungs were already collapsed. And he needed a blood transfusion. Okay, and at this point, I hadn't been asleep for probably 32 hours. No, I'm lying. I didn't sleep 24 hours again. There we go. 24 hours again. Because when we finally got a bed in ICU, we ended up staying up all night because all of this was progressing as the night grew. So maybe like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that, he had gotten a ventilator done in a tube. So I couldn't even process or think or fathom that we would be in this point, because just the day before we were just fine, and then this happened, and all I could think of, it was just kindergarten germs, and it was a common virus and a common cold that got us in this position that nobody on the news was talking about. It was not RSV, it was not coronavirus. It was a common virus that was going around, and he caught it. And fortunately, some kids can get it and they'll just get a runny nose. Me, I can get it, and like growing up, when I grew up, I was probably exposed. I was playing outside, so who knows what I didn't have in my mouth? Dirt. I got honey off a tree and those little white flowers. I was taking. I don't know what I had, so I probably can just just get it and I'm just fine. But for him, it was different. Like, it hit different. And a lot of other children, it definitely hit different. And for they didn't tell me until we left, but for other children, it was actually fatal. And a lot of other, it was a good amount of kids that actually had the same virus that he had around that time in the ICU, and they didn't make it, or they just had a runny nose and they just needed to be on a ventilator a couple of days to support their lungs, and they were fine. That was not our case. So I'm running out in the hallway and I'm just like praying. Can't breathe. I'm thinking, I don't know. It was just a lot to just take in. Everything was just happening so quickly. We went from ER to neurology to check to see if he was like a seizure prone kid, was not. And then now we thought we were going home, and then now it's like, no, he needs a blood transfusion. No, he needs a ventilator. Oh, he needs a chest tube. Oh, did I tell you this was life support? And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just trying to stay positive, because in the beginning, like I said, I heard God say, he's good. So he's good. He's good. So I'm just walking by faith and not by sight. Like, everything I see is a lie. Everything I see is a lie. It's what God said. It's what God said. And I just had to keep reminding myself to keep my eyes on God and not what was going on, because it was hard. That moment when Christian went to sleep that night, because he went to sleep at a normal time, like probably around 9:30, he went to sleep. But as he's sleeping, that's when we're noticing, and he woke up like just to speak to us. He started screaming, whatever, and he went back to sleep. So as he's sleeping, before he fell asleep, that was the last time I got to talk to him. Basically what I was saying was, that was the last time excuse me if I'm chewing on my words when I'm trying to talk about this. This is not easy. It is not easy to go through what we went through with a 6-year-old unexpectedly, back to back, and just coming out of it. So here I am. So yeah, he fell asleep 9:30. And that was, I didn't know, like, when you find out that your child is going to be on a ventilator, but you don't know how long, and you know they're not going to be able to talk to you. They're not going to be able to speak because it's going down their throat. Um, I was in that moment where I just wish I said more before he went to bed. I wish I said more to him. You know, I wish I said more. And all it was, good night. We prayed. We did a regular routine that we normally do. He normally says the Lord's Prayer, and he goes to sleep. So I wish I said more because I didn't know what was ahead of us. What was that? I asked the doctors, I was like, okay, so how long is he going to need to be on a ventilator? And they were just like, oh, just a couple days, but we don't want to keep him on too long because there's risk for infection. I'm like, well, how long is risk for infection? And it was like, well, maybe like a week out. He was on the ventilator for maybe 6 weeks. 6 weeks. He got off 7 weeks. He was off the ventilator. So she was just like, oh, maybe like a week. Who knows? Like, and it wasn't up to them. I was just asking questions because I wanted to know what to expect. I'm like, how bad is this? We were just fine. I didn't want to accept it. And then I said, okay, God said it was good. So I'm sitting here in my understanding, like, God, you said it was good. Any moment now, when is the good going to be good? Like, when we going to be good? Okay. Like, I just, okay. So we're still going and I'm still keeping faith. So at that moment, I heard God say, call Christian Superman. And I was like, okay, he's Superman, right? Then I was in a prayer group and they all prayed over Christian and they heard God call me a superhero, a superwoman. And then I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And they said that after this, I'm going to be a superwoman. And they also heard God say that he was good. It's going to look, but they didn't tell me it was going to look ugly until it started looking ugly. It was like, okay, but here's the real word. It was, it's going to look a little ugly, but he's going to be just fine. They saw him fine. So, and they saw him smiling. And I said, okay. So, confirmation was that night I was just staring at him and I was rubbing him, and so was his dad. Because he was just on a little child was on a ventilator and he was just laying there and you can see his chest moving for him because the breathing was way more pronounced than it normally was. Like, your baby, so you know how he breathes, so like it was just like they were just doing it for him, and it was a lot to deal with. And then he kind of got a little darker, I think, from the blood transfusion, the first blood transfusion, okay? Number 1. So, we're in the ICU at that moment. There's a lot of other people there too, so I think I might have taken a nap or I didn't. I don't know. I know I prayed. And I look over because the curtain was pulled back in the next, it was like probably 6 people in this one room. It was called a pod. And I look over and then there's the child that was over there, not sure how long they was there, but he had a Superman pillow. Right after I heard God say in the middle of the night, because I'm thinking, I didn't think I was crazy, but I do get amazed every time I hear from God, because at one point I didn't really recognize it. I didn't understand it. And now that my faith increased and my journey with Christ definitely has progressed, like I'm like, oh, he is talking to me. Okay. So now I'm really impressed because I'm looking over into the next room and there's a Superman pillowcase, 2 of them. I'm like, oh, I did hear him. I did, So I'm like, okay, he's gonna be Superman, and Superman is good. So I'm like, okay, we good. You said it was good, so that's the word of the day. He's good. So I took a. Did I take a walk? I don't think I took a walk. I think I stayed next to that baby like glue, like right on rice. You couldn't do anything. I was right there. I didn't move. I didn't care. I didn't care. I think I don't know that I took a shower. I'm gonna be 100. I think I stayed next to him. No, I think I did. I did go to take showers and come back. That was the only time I did. And get like a breath to just wash and come right back. So while I was walking to just walk, if you ever been to Children's National Hospital, you probably saw this, but for me, it was really powerful. I walked downstairs, and I'll probably add the pictures just so you know I ain't crazy, right? I walked downstairs, and it was two pictures. I'm looking, I don't even know why I looked into like this glass door. It was like a waiting room, and there was a picture. It was Superman and Wonder Woman. And then I heard God said, Christian got an S on his chest. And I'm like, oh, what? What? Ah. But I didn't really understand what it meant. But I knew that these are superheroes and they overcame, they conquered. Like, that's what they do. They fight. And we were fighting at this moment. And, they're always the victor. So I'm like, okay, we will be too. We're conquerors. And I was just speaking life into our situation. So after that, I don't know I can't remember this moment because it was all the phase was happening way too fast. Not even, I think that day they realized that he needed to be in his own private room because he was severely sick. Then he had to get on his another blood transfusion, and then he had to get on another life support machine. It's called the ECMO. And what this life support machine does, in my head, the way I understood it is because I've heard of other people get um what's it called, dialysis for their kidneys, so it like cleans their blood and put it back in. So instead of dialysis of your kidney, it was like cleaning. So it's supposed to go through like the artery, the main artery in your neck down to your lungs. And it acts as your lungs, where it takes all your body, your blood out of your body, and then puts oxygen in it for you, and then puts it back into your oh, sorry, I'm down here because I'm about to say why I was down there. It puts it back into your lungs, into your body, through your lungs. And the reason that is because you don't want to poison your body with too many carbon monoxide levels, like, because you're not putting the oxygen in there because he wasn't breathing that well. So, because his lungs were severely sick. So when I heard that, I remember going into the hallway. I don't even know how far I walked, but I collapsed and fell. Oh, I was in front of the elevator, but I don't remember because I didn't really know the footpath of the hospital when I first got there. Now I'm so familiar with it. Like, if you need help, I can help you. So I fell and collapsed on the floor. That was the first time I actually like broke down and really cried about the situation because I'm exhausted now. I don't even remember if I'm eating now. God said I was good, and I'm looking like, when is the good gonna be good? It was just a lot going on, and then I had to make decisions like, hey, can we do this? Can we do this? I'm like, yes, 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 yes. But I'm not even sure if it's helpful. But what I will say, every time, and then so many more things was happening back to back. I think I might be skipping over like all the back to back hits. But I will say those doctors were anointed. Everyone praying over our process. Me praying, everybody praying. Had those doctors, like, every time something did pop up for us, which it did, back to back to back to back. It was something, and it was like critical. Every single time they had a solution for it. They knew exactly what it was. Like, it was no doubt in their mind. Okay, something's happening. He needs a blood transfusion. Okay, something's happening. He needs to turn up the oxygen. Okay, something's happening. He needs this life support machine. Okay, something's happening. He needs another life support machine. So, like, the skill set in those doctors, and then everybody's faith. So we were faithing. They was working. It was all good. It was all good. So, but what I do like about the Children's National was that they allow the parents to advocate for their child. So they'll give you opportunities to meet with the doctors every day, and you can you can take part in discussing, what avenues the doctors should take for your child. And that's not my wheelhouse. Like, my expertise is money. And there wasn't a dollar that I wouldn't have given to make sure my son was good. Like, money didn't matter to me. I was useless. It's all you guys. So I didn't even show at that point. I didn't even show up to none of the meetings because there's nothing I could do but just cry out to God. I prayed. That was all I could do. I turned down my plate. That was all I could do. I was completely hopeless. And now that he has all these that life support machine attached to him, I'm clumsy, so I didn't want to like knock out something that I knew he needed, because I saw when they were just cleaning him, and the seconds that I need to plug in this phone. And the seconds that was going by that he either did or didn't have it plugged in, it mattered. Like, the machine was going haywire. So I'm like, I don't want it to be me, and I don't know how to get back fast enough like they did. Like, it was just like the panic was on their face, but they were getting it on, baby. And I just didn't have it. So I couldn't really hug on him and kiss on him. But I tell you, that wasn't a day went by that I didn't talk to him like everything was normal, that I didn't pray and do our nighttime routine. Like, it was hard talking to your baby. He wasn't talking back, but it was necessary, because who knows what he could hear and what he couldn't. I prayed over him. I anointed his head with holy oil that I made with some olive oil myself and blessed over it. Yes, I did. Okay, so he gets a second life support machine. We get into our own private room. No, we get into our own private room. They said he needs a life support machine, because what happened was, I got the picture. So when we turned, like, all right, so you don't get bed sores and go run into another issue being in the hospital, because at that point, I think we were there for like 2 weeks. And he was on a ventilator at 1 week at this point. So you don't run into more issues. They got to like turn you so that you don't get bed sores, and that can lead into an infection as well. So they would turn him this way. His heart rate would go too high, and that's a risk of having a heart attack. He's 6 years old, having a heart attack. They turn him this way. His heart rate goes too low, and that will have you at risk of not being here. Okay? So, but they gotta do it like it's necessary, but his body just wasn't having it. So they said, let's just escalate this. And they did something called pruning, which is they turn like the person that's severely ill on their stomach. Turn them on their stomach so that to relieve like some of the stress. So they turn him on his stomach. Miraculously, all his numbers on the machine, and baby, I did not know how to read the machines. Beep, beep, beep. That's all I thought about. But now I can read them things like, dang, I was about to say something crazy. But anyway, I can read them. I was like, that's not a good analogy. So the machine, like, all his numbers look normal, and I'm like, oh, it was a relief for me. But the look of it was rough, because at this point he had 2 blood transfusions, and when you get a blood transfusion, your face just swells up. Everything just looks really puffy. So everything was puffy on him. You could barely you could barely make out his facial features. He looked like a different person, but I knew exactly who my baby was. And he liked it. And then not only that, but it was rewarding for me, because I saw him smile while he was face down, and I knew he was good. I knew he was in there, and I was still talking to him, reading books. I ordered books from Walmart. Got a little delivery, because I think it was a Walmart nearby, the Children's National or Target, whatever. I don't even know, but I ordered it, okay? And I was reading him books and everything. Playing his favorite songs, playing praise music the whole time, because that's what we listen to in the car on the way to school. And I play his favorite songs. So what happened? All right. So after that, I think the issue with pruning, laying the child on their stomach, even though it was great for him, you can only do it for 24 hours and that's it. 18 hours at the max before things are just an issue, especially with collapsed lungs. So I want him to stay on there, but at the same time, I heard about all the risks. And at that point, I think they left him for probably no, wait, 18. I think the max was 24 hours. I said it backwards. The max was 24 hours, and he did 18 hours. So like 18 was pushing it. No, 18 was already pushing it, and 24 was really pushing it. I think. I don't know. But I know there was like a time frame that he could do it. So he kind of was at the pushing it line, and they had to like take him off. So when they took him off, and he desat again, like all his vitals were not normal. It was, you hear all the beeping, all the crazy sounds, to the point where it's just like, now when you get in my car, you better put on your seatbelt because I can't hear no dinging. Well, now I'm good. I'm delivered. I have prayed about it. But at that time, it was just like, I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear air fryer. I don't want to hear microwave. Anything dinging, please do not bring it around me. I was ding, 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 ding. So his ventilator will go off, and that is a horrific noise. I pray that you never have to hear it. It is the reason why the noise is so horrific is because it has a specific tone to it. And not only does it have a specific tone, it also means something that I want no parent to ever know what it means, okay? And that's what we heard all the time. And we also heard his heart monitor. Oh, it was just too much. It was too much dinging. I could barely sleep because I was like, looking. It was just a mess. So then we found out that it was, I'll never forget. So it was February 16th. We had gotten to the hospital on February 8th. It was February 16th, and they said to he needed to have the surgery to get the second life support machine. I'm like, okay. And they were telling me about all the positive things, but the doctor never told me what the risks were because she found it not important, because it never happens. But she told me all the positive things about the I dropped it back to my earring. Who cares, right? She told me all the positive things that would happen and would be good for him. So I said, okay. But I felt uncomfortable because here I am signing another waiver, because the ventilator was a waiver. This one was a bigger waiver, longer. And I'm like, okay. I mean, what can you do at the point? You don't know. You just have to trust God. And he said it was good, remember? So I signed it, real shaky, but I signed it. And I immediately turned down my plate. I fasted. I did not eat a daggone thing. You hear me? I prayed. I prayed until my knees were sore. I prayed until my legs were numb. I prayed. So, okay, so the surgeon came up to our room, and I'm on my knees praying, and I got my hair covered, and on a dirty hospital floor, because baby, I don't know if you ever seen a hospital floor. Ooh, they clean. They do a good job at cleaning the rooms, but something about that floor that cannot get clean. And I was on that floor, so that I wasn't in my right. I had a sound mind, but I wasn't in no like worldly mind, because if I would look down and seen that floor, baby, I would have never got. And I'm a complete germaphobe. That was not going to work for me. Now I'm realizing what I did, but and grossed out, right? Not realizing what I did 13 weeks later, 14 weeks later, 13. Anyway, the surgeon walks in, and I'm like, can you not? Like, you see what I'm doing. That's not important. I didn't know he was a surgeon. I just thought there was this white man just walking in here, and I was just like, what you doing? Okay. I don't care what coat you got on, what badge you got on, because they all had badges saying whether it was a nurse or a doctor. I was like, I don't care. I'm praying. I'm talking to the Lord. It don't got nothing to do with you. Bye. So I'm looking at him like, okay, hi. And I'm still going. I'm ignoring him. And he's like, I said, I'm praying. And he said, well, do you have a second? I'm actually the surgeon that will be operating on your son. So I get up, and I was like, okay. Hey, I sure got plenty of seconds. Hi. So he talks to me. He's like, well, I just want to make sure you understand the surgery and what I'll be doing. And I'm like, okay, I don't, but it got to be done. And he said, it's going to be good. I've done this. And he talks about his history. And I said, look, all of that. Please, the last thing I said to him, and I know he still remembers it because it's echoed in his mind, I said, treat my baby as if he's yours. Treat my baby as if he's yours. And make sure and make sure you bring him back to me. Make sure he's good. Do everything you can. So he said, I will. And then that's how he walked away. So we sit in the empty room just waiting for him, and it just feels so eerie. My heart felt like something was off. But I didn't know what the something was because at this point, we just got boom, 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 back to back to back. It was so many hits. I don't even know if I'm breathing at this point. I don't know if I'm going to come in, but I do know that I'm not going to eat because I'm going to sacrifice my body and I'm going to pray to the Lord. That's all I knew I was doing because I couldn't help him. I couldn't go over there and wash him. I couldn't talk like I talked to him. I couldn't hug him. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't, make him a sandwich. I couldn't do anything as a parent that you think that you want to do to help your child. I couldn't do it. I couldn't hug him. I couldn't console him. I couldn't make it better. I just had to just be there. And I just knew the only thing I did was what I knew I could do in my power. The authority that God gave me was to pray and fast. Pray without ceasing. Be anxious about nothing. Like, that's the weapon. I used the sword of the spirit to attack whatever was attacking my baby's body. Because, like, I used to be a fighter in real life, but now I'm a fighter in the realm of the spirit. So these prayers, it's like a sniper. I'm going to make sure I get exactly what I'm supposed to be getting. And that's boosted by my fasting, me turning down my plate, like dry fasting, not the fake fasting, like, and I'm saying fake, but I'll explain it in another time, but it's just like, hey, I'm not going to, like, fast from social media. I'm not going to do a Daniel's fast, which is, like, eat vegetables. I already eat vegetables. I eat, like, a vegan diet. I'm not a vegan, but I don't eat dairy or meat. So that wasn't, sorry, it's stuff coming across my phone. I shouldn't have used my phone. I should use my camera. So what I did was I abstained. The definition of fasting is to abstain for food or drink for a period of time. And that's exactly what I did. I abstained from food. I was abstinent from food. I would drink water just to make sure I replenish myself because I'm not, like, I needed to just be alert because I did have to sign things. And in my right mind, like, that's, you have to sign a contract, you have to be in your right mind. So it's just like, okay, I'm not going to be weak. But yeah, I did. That's what I did. That's the only thing I could do. She can't do nothing. So I did that, which is amazing. So they come back up. I don't even think an hour went by, and the worst nightmare happened. Have you ever watched I'm like, why did I ever watch any, like, General Hospital and House? I used to love House. Or any, get to it. I will. I used to watch, like, hospital shows, and you would see when the doctors come to you and they just don't share good news. So you already know what it looks like, and it paints a picture of a lot of fear and grief. Well, I would have never thought after seeing that I would be on the other end of it and it wouldn't be scripted. It'd be real life, okay? So the doctor comes and her face is just flushed and you can just see the worry on her face. And at this point, I didn't even think I breathed. I took a breath in when she came in, and I don't ever remember breathing out. She says, she tried to say it calm, but she's looking at me like this. She's looking at both of us, Christian's dad and I. He says, okay, He went in for the surgery. Everything went well. However, when they went to put the cannula, I'm just going to use the hospital terms, by the way. When they went to put the cannula into his artery and they started up the machine, the big clot went from the machine and pumped into his heart, the size of this, and stopped his heart. And his heart has been stopped for the last 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I get up out my chair. I take another breath in. I ran into that hallway and I didn't stop. I did like this. I didn't breathe and I just ran into the hallway and I said, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Christian, you return back to your body right now in Jesus' name. And I said it 3 times. And I paced that hallway back and forth. And I said, like, I had so much adrenaline. I didn't cry, I didn't anything. It was just pacing down the hallway, praying. And I said, you return back to your body right now in the mighty... I didn't say you. I said him, but he's actually right there on the couch, sleeping. So, I said his name. And I said, return back to your body right now in the name of Jesus Christ. I made declarations over him, and I didn't realize I was making declarations. And guess what? I probably paced in that hallway for another 15 or 20 minutes. And the doctors came and got me, and their face was all red and puffy. And she said, that's when I found out it came to pass. God answered me in rapid speed. She said, he's back. That's the first. She said, he's back. And her eyes are all glossed up, and my eyes was glossed up. But I had a frog in my throat because I'm like, it didn't hit me yet. Like, yo, they just said that to me. Like, where we were good a day before this all happened, and God said it was good. So what is the good? What is the good, Lord? Like, what his heart did what? Oh, before that even happened, they were telling us to move closer to the operating room, which is downstairs, because just in case he transitioned, they want us to be there. Say goodbye. I wasn't saying goodbye. I wasn't saying that. Because the whole time they would tell me their suggestions, like when we were just in the hospital, they said, well, go home and go get some rest, come to sleep. And, get rest, go out, get out the hospital, do this. And I said, look, I'm not leaving this hospital without my baby. So I stayed in that hospital every single day, and I probably went out for like air just to look at the garden that they had and come right back in. And I'll tell you another time that I did, but I didn't leave that hospital because my declaration, my vow to myself was, I am not leaving this hospital unless my baby's coming with me. Like, I'm not leaving this hospital without him. Not unless. It was, I am not leaving this hospital without my baby. Period. I didn't care what it looked like. So imagine what kind of faith you needed in that moment when they tell you that your child's heart stopped and it's been 10 minutes and they want you to come down closer to the operating room in case he transitions. But they didn't say that. They were just implying. It was like, come closer to be there. Imagine what kind of faith you have to know that your sight is lying to you. What the world is saying is lying to you, because God, when you were on the steps running down to open up the door for the paramedics, said that he was good. The faith of Abraham you had to have. Supernatural faith, not by might, not by power, but Holy Spirit had to give you that faith. Like, that was supernatural. I couldn't have done that on my own. So she come in 20 minutes later after I'm pacing the hallway. I burnt a hole in that hallway, honey. So I'm pacing the floor, and I burnt a hole in that floor. Walking back and forth. The case manager was there, and they had met with us beforehand after we signed the waiver. So he was just, there, I guess, just, I don't know, doing what they do. But it wasn't going to be nothing. It was going to be a whole lot of nothing that I needed. Because you ain't never been in my shoes. Like, what can you say? I mean, I get it. I know what you signed up to be. But in that moment, it's nothing you can do, because ain't nothing it was something I can do, and I did it. But all he did was just lay on the wall at the point. So they still told us to go down to the operating room. So we're sitting there in a room. Instead of going back to the room, they moved us down to the operating room. And not to the operating room, to the waiting room outside of the operating room. It's kind of down the hall a little bit more. So 5 doctors had came to us, and they said the story the same way each time, and they were just telling us what happened. They tell us this heart stopped, a blood clot went into his heart, the size of half of his other heart, and stopped it. And they had to open up his chest to actually manually pump his heart. They had to do open heart surgery to manually pump his heart to bring him back to life. Imagine not knowing what's happening with your son. You want to see him, you can't see him, you can't hold him, you can't hug him, you can't fix this. All you can do is just pray and have faith. Because at this point, I don't even think I cried yet. I'm just talking. I'm just talking to the Lord. I'm telling the Lord. I think I tuned everybody out, and I was just talking to God about this, praying. And they all came, and they all said the same story. And I was interested in hearing it. I didn't tell them to stop, because I just wanted to know, where's my baby and where is he at now? But they all had the same story, and they all had ended with the same amount of progress, which was, I didn't really hear any. I just heard what happened, and they didn't know. They were still working on it. They were just like, just wait here. So what they did was, instead of putting the ECMO machine that supports your life and cleans out your blood and put oxygen in it, there's one that goes here to your lungs, and then there's one that goes into your chest, and you have to have open heart surgery because it actually attached to your heart. So one side of your heart, your blood is like a really dark color. When they tell it, like that blue blood that they talk about that has no oxygen in it, you'll see the different, I saw the differences between colors. They taught me all of it, because what else would you learn if you were in the hospital for 10 weeks, right? Because I didn't care. I wasn't on social media. I wasn't anywhere else. So it was all crash course on how to be a doctor and an RN. That was it. So, yeah, they put it on his heart, because for some reason they couldn't get it through his artery, because that happened. And but they still needed to get it to his lungs, because his lungs were sick, and that's what needed the support to help breathe and inflate, because they were collapsed and weak, and they really could not get as much oxygen if they needed to for him to survive. Hours go by. So he went into surgery probably 12:30. They told us this happened at 1:30. 2 o'clock we get downstairs. We're still down here, and it's 5:30. We're still in the waiting room outside the operating room. They come back and say, hey, look, he's going upstairs now, but he's going to leave the PICU pediatric ICU and go to the SICU, which is cardiovascular ICU, because at this point he had open heart surgery. Oh, but before when I found out he had open heart surgery that was going on here, because all the 5 doctors said what was going on and what was happening, but they didn't say how he was doing, what his progress was. I knew at that point, because I was like, who invented open heart surgery? Like, it was a black man. Like, he good. Like, I was declaring to God that he was going to be good because resurrection was his specialty. Like, that's what the. So as I'm in a waiting room waiting, I was declaring to God because I knew that resurrection was his specialty. Like, he rose from the tomb. Like, there were so many, I think it was like 4 instances in the Bible that I read that he brought someone to life. Oh man, where's that verse? I'll post it another time, whatever. But there was a verse about overcoming doubt. I can't even get it out right now, but I'll probably post it somewhere. I got to. Yeah, I just kept declaring. I was just saying, Lord, this is your specialty. I was thankful for where we were, and I just had gratitude. I had peace and a supernatural amount of peace, knowing that He told me He's good. He's good. That's what He told me, and I held on to that word, like He's good. All of this stuff was happening, but I held on to He's good. So we get to the cardiovascular ICU. He gets there, but we didn't get there. We're still sitting there waiting for him. And I'm just like, okay, I can't sit here anymore. What's going on? Because now, like, you just told me, like, he wasn't here anymore. And now you're telling me he is. But I haven't seen him through none of this. Like, where is he? So, like, okay, you can come upstairs, but I'll bring you upstairs, but you just got to wait outside the room because they're still, like, cleaning him up. I'm like, okay. So we're waiting outside the room, and probably hours, some more hours go by, and I'm just standing outside of the room, and you can't really see inside the room because there was a lot of equipment in there, and all the equipment, every machine was something he needed to live. So it was a very crowded hospital room. And then his head was turned towards the door just in case any emergencies happen, someone needs to operate on him. So it wasn't in the actual position that the rooms were made for. He was in a, like, facing the door, so you couldn't see him. His head was facing the door. I couldn't even peek in there because it was so many machines and doctors and nurses around him just moving around, and they all had like a sense of worry on their face, you know. But and so do we. So I finally went over there and I said, when can I see my baby? You know, because when can I see him? So they're like, you want to wait for a little bit? We can cover him up. And I'm like, what do you mean cover him up? Well, we're just trying to make him presentable. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm confused. Nervous laughter. So the reason why they were afraid, he was ready to be seen at any moment, but to be seen by the mother. They were concerned because other mothers have seen their children in the state that I'm about to see him in, and they literally like lost it. They either fainted or went crazy, hysterical crying. It was a lot. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, yo, I don't care what's going on. Give me my baby. So I walk in, I see him. It's machines everywhere, here, everywhere, attached to him. And the most important thing was his chest was wide open like a zipper, like you unzipped it. And you can see his heart and his lungs beating. His heart was beating. And the machine was attached to his heart, one side, blood. These big old, why am I childish? But these tubes this big, on one side and the other side, blood is going out and then getting oxygen in it and then getting back in. That's the other side. So they were looking at me like, nobody's breathing. I'm breathing because I can see my baby. Like, now I'm not doing the chest and neck breathing. I'm actually in my stomach now. I graduated. So I'm like, hi, baby. Hi. You know, normal, because I don't know if it was just like, it was an overwhelming peace for real, supernatural for real. Like, the peace beyond understanding was there. The joy of the Lord was there. The grace of God was there. But like, it didn't bother me that his chest was open, because for me it was reassurance that it worked. Like, I saw his heartbeat and it worked. So it didn't bother me. And at that moment I experienced so much trauma back to back that it's just like you're just in a numb mode where, like, not numb like you're depressed or anything, but numb like almost on autopilot just so you can get through it. Like, your adrenaline is pumping because you just have to brave it. You just have to be a superhero in that moment and you just got to perform. So I was just, after waiting for so long, you could have gave him me bloody everywhere. I wouldn't even care. I would have hugged on my baby, but I couldn't hug on him because he had so many machines hooked up to him. Again, I'm clumsy. I didn't want to be the reason. And then, like, the machine, you could literally move him and his heart would move too. Like, so that was kind of hard because I couldn't really hug him and hold him, but I was able to, like, get through the wires and put my hand in his hand. He was still asleep, of course. Very, 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 very asleep and highly medicated because of all the pain that he was enduring. Pain from his lungs, pain from the tubes, pain from the draining of his lungs, pain from the chest being open and his sternum and ribs being ripped apart. Like, pain. So he was medicated for it and he was asleep. And I still talk to my baby just like he was talking back to me. Calling me mommy 15 times in 1 second. It's a Guinness record, you ladies and gentlemen. But I couldn't hear it, but, you know, I was just showing up as if I could. Because that's the hope that I was holding on to. The hope of the promise that God made me, that he was good. And I was in full expectation that he was good. And I was contending for it. He was good, okay? And it looked ugly. And my eyes, again, they lied to me. The doctors were doing their part and amazingly, and they were anointed. Like, these doctors, you can tell that people were praying over us because they showed up with the best of the best of the best with the best. They were flying stuff. Oh my gosh, they was flying people in from Ohio to work with him and, like, testing samples and flying it overnight, and it was a lot. They were doing like, God had his hand all up and through this, okay? So when people was like, oh, it's a nightmare, it was just like, yo, it was actually, we was good. It was blessed in the middle of a storm. Like, he kept us the whole entire time. And they were looking because these people could not explain. First, they couldn't explain why this happened. And then they couldn't explain, like, how he came back to life. Because it just looked like it wasn't going to happen for them. And I was like, no. I'm not leaving the hospital without my baby. And go fix it. And then not only that, but they couldn't explain why I had a peace over me when I saw him, because not one mother was able to stand there and see that and fall down. I didn't cry, I didn't anything. I mean, it did kind of shake you up a little bit because it was more so the machines and what he had to go through as a 6-year-old versus what I saw, like how messy it was. So, yeah. That was hard being in the cardiovascular ICU, because when you're in ICU for you got, like, you don't, as you're walking to your room, other children are in ICU. Babies are having the same thing. They had open heart surgery and it was hard. It was tugging on your heart. So it made it even harder being in your room, doing all your neck breathing, like, okay, I'm making it. And then you walk out your room for a breath of fresh air, and the next person over is a baby that needs a heart and has their chest open as well. And you find out that they've been there for 11 months since the baby was born. And the mom's been standing by their side the whole entire time, just waiting for someone to give them a heart. And what you got to do, what position you got to be in to donate a heart, okay? Like, it's just not a good situation all around. Yeah, so When we got that machine on his heart, his chest was open for 6 days. I got to see my baby's heartbeat for 6 days, and that was reassurance, a blessing from God to say it works. And during those days that his chest was open, um, that machine was so important and detrimental to his life that there was a nurse that sat there on that machine 24 hours a day. They could not even get up to go to the bathroom to eat or anything. They had to, if they wanted, well, you couldn't eat in a room when we go to cardiovascular because it was just such a high risk ICU. But if you needed to go to the bathroom, you literally had to call someone that was specifically trained for this machine to sit there and stare at it. So there was no privacy in that room. We always had people in there. In fact, when every ICU was in, every 30 minutes somebody came in. So this is not a bed and breakfast. This is a get your son out of the hospital, okay? This is a healing place, and we're going to come in every 30 minutes to make sure, because it's the ICU and it's critical, and we need to look at him and lay eyes on him every 30 seconds, every 30 minutes. So, yeah, around the clock, 24 hours, someone had to be sitting there looking for him. So at this point, he didn't had, because I'm skipping over a lot of things just for the sake of time, he had 7 surgeries, 8 or 9 blood transfusions, 1 plasma transfusion, a lot of platelets, and you don't even need to know what that is, because you don't need to be in this situation. If you are, you can hit me up. I can support you, but whatever. I'm just going to run through it, what it is. 2 life support machines, open heart surgery, and a feeding tube. And there's a feeding tube installed so he can get some type of nutrition. And of course, all the IVs. And a catheter for bowels, and for him to go to the bathroom, and a line in his groin as well to get medication. So that was a lot. It was a lot. But we made it. We pulled through. His heart, we stayed in the cardiovascular ICU for 6 days because his chest was open, but he needs to get his chest closed, because at any moment, just having your heart open and everything exposed, the hospital they clean it all the time, but it's a hospital, so bacteria can grow. He was at risk for bacterial growth and an infection. So typically they only keep your heart, like if they had to, it's like 3 days. He went 6 days. The doctor that gave me the reassurance that came down was like, hey, we want to do this ECMO. She was so happy about it too. She was like, you want to get him an ECMO, it's going to be better, this is going to help him, this, that. She never, remember I said she never mentioned any risk. So I went to her and she said, now she's telling me about the risk of the machine, because we all cozy and we got into the cardiovascular ICU, which we was never supposed to be at. And she says, well, there was a 1% chance that this could have happened, but it has never happened, and they performed this surgery 20 million times. And the 1% chance happened to you guys. And I said, let me tell you something. If you're going to be the doctor that's going to follow us from here on out, I need you to be open and transparent. I need you to lead with what's going to happen wrong, so that I can make an informed decision over our child. And then you can tell me about the benefits after you have cleared the room. Is that clear? And she's like, Crystal. And I'm like, thank you. She was like, oh, so you're the type of parent that just likes to know the bad thing. No, baby. I like to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Thank you. Like, don't be passive with me. We need to know this is a life at stake, okay? Because literally, everything she would talk to me about, I went back to God and say, hey, God, is this okay? Like, I want to be able to do that. I might not know your jargon, but baby, it may not be my wheelhouse, but I know who to go to. So, from there, that's when we had better communication, where it's just like, hey, don't just paint a pretty picture for me, because I don't know if you've seen this picture, but ain't nothing pretty about it. So don't put no sugar nowhere. Like, give it to me straight. And that's how I am in real life anyway. Like, don't sugarcoat nothing for me. I don't have time. Not in a bad way, because I'm very kind, I'm very patient, I'm very gentle. I'm just saying, like, you rob people of choice when you're not honest, when you're not upfront, when you're not forthcoming, when you're not saying, hey, good news and bad news. Like, don't just tell me good news. This is not a Disney movie. This is real life. So they adhered to it. She was really, apologetic. She understood, and she kept coming back. Every doctor, every nurse that we experienced, at this point, we were in the hospital for 2 weeks. And we saw a lot of people, because a lot of things kept happening. Every time they said, well, it's only a 1% chance this will go wrong. Like, them going forward, they were honest. I mean, they were honest anyway, but that was one big reason you needed to be honest. They didn't, and his heart stopped. But going forward, they were honest about a lot of things, and they were just saying, like, the 1% chance this can happen. Yeah, this is happening. We can fix it, but there's a 1% chance that something can happen that can go wrong. And I'm not lying to you. Every time something happened, it was about 20 things that happened in the span of 1 week. And it felt like I lived out a whole year. It was just so heavy, so much, so you couldn't even breathe. I don't even know if I ate. I don't remember sleeping. I think I did. I did take naps on a day because I had to, just to rejuvenate my mind, because I'm like, okay, I need to fight in the realm of the spirit again, because there's nothing I can do. I can't even get over to my baby the way I want to, because there's machines blocking me. There's cords and tubes and everything that he needs to live, and I don't want to be the one that's clumsy, which I know I am, and trip over it, and then that all that work. So every time they said 1%, it happened to him. Everything that could have gone, it happened. It happened. It was to the point when we started expecting, well, I didn't expect it, but it was just like, okay, so what can go wrong, so we can just deal with what can go wrong. Let's just start from there. Just like, hey, doctors, let's just talk about what can go wrong and how to troubleshoot, because that's just our story. It's the 20th time. We've been here. It's okay. We're good-ish. We're just on autopilot. We're numb, but we're smiling. Nobody can understand why we were still smiling. Nobody can understand why we were still cheerful. Nobody can understand that we were still helpful to other children, thoughtful, at peace, not crying hysterically every second to know that our child that's only 6 was severely ill, and just the day before we got here, he was perfectly fine. Nobody can understand it, but I could, you could, because you have, God. It was all God. We were in perfect peace with God through the whole journey. We were going through the storm with him, and peace was still. So, all the doctors came, and they all came. It started to get overwhelming for me, but it was like it was too overwhelming. It was amazing that so many people took to us and cared for us, and how amazing Children's Hospital is, that these doctors, they all took their time out to not just treat us like another day at work, but to say, hey, we're here for you. We cry with you. We hurt with you. Like, this hurt us too. And they came just to show their face, and they all had pink eyes, and you can tell they were all crying. Red eyes. You can tell they were all crying. And that meant so much. It meant, it just meant a lot. It really, I don't even have the words. I don't have the words. But I appreciate it. And then it got overwhelming, because I still haven't had a chance to process the 80 other things that happened, because I thought that was the worst thing that could have happened. And I thought the good was going to start. Like, you said he was good. We good, right? This is it. Oh my God, the blood transfusion. Oh my God, that 8th surgery. No, 5, because he had 7 in total. But I'm like, okay, so this is the part, this is the part that's going to be good, right? And then this happens. he's gone for 30 minutes. I haven't had a chance to just catch up to where I am and to see that he's there and his chest is open and all these machines and I can't even get to him. I can't kiss him. I can't do anything. I put a sign on the door and I was just like, yo, talk to the nurse first before you enter. I'm sorry, I had to do it. 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 My mental health was at stake. I didn't know what was next. I just knew we just kept getting mollywop, wop, wop. Like, I was like, fight back or something. Like, it was so bad. It was so much. I had to say, okay, y'all, don't, close the door. Close the door, pull a curtain. Just let me just be. Let me be. I just need to catch up because this was a lot. This was a lot. The agony came in when we were in the cardiovascular ICU, getting to know the other parents because, you know, that's just what you do. They had their own, like, shower area versus using the whole hospital shower. It was community living. And I'm like, I've been in college before. I know how to share a shower. Like, it's all good. Like, I can do this. But at the same time, I had no choice because I said, I'm not leaving this hospital without my baby. So it's just going to have to work. So the agony came in was because we had to actually, when closing his chest so he wouldn't get infection meant that we would have to actually have the surgery he was supposed to have to get the life support machine through his neck to his lungs because that's what is sick. His heart is healthy. And that's what everybody in all the cardiovascular doctors were saying, like, hey, his heart's healthy. We need to get that off his heart before it gets too weak. Like, you know, it don't need to be there. So we need to put it where it's supposed to be. And he needs to go back to the other ICU. He doesn't need to be here. His heart is healthy. And I'm like, I hear you. But his blood is getting oxygen. Like, he good, right? And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. So fear not. Be courageous, okay? Because I can't lie and say that I was just like, sure, that I didn't have a thought in my mind that might have been negative about getting the same procedure done all over. Because I'm like, hey, didn't we do this already? Wasn't the stove hot already? What, can you find something else? And I kept asking that every single time. And the doctor didn't have an answer for me. And they were just as flabbergasted as I was when I found out what was going on. So their heart stopped and so did my, not their heart stopped, they stopped breathing and so did I. That's what I meant to say. Okay, bad. So I didn't have any reassurance, and at the same time, like, who could provide the reassurance, you know? But God did. He already started out with reassurance, which was, he is good. So I'm like, okay, whatever you did, we are anointed. We are anointed. This whole path is anointed. It's cool. I got Bible verses at the, you know, I'm just reading all of our Bible verses. I'm meditating on his promises, his word. Every single day that I was in the hospital, I was praying when I wake up. I pray when I see. I pray without ceasing, just like it said in his word. I was in full expectation, just like he said in his word. I was a she that believed it was going to be a performance of my life, just like it said in his word. I was in that word. I turned down my plate. I fasted for 24 hours straight. I did everything. So I was like, you know what? Okay. Fear not. Go ahead and do it. I don't know what they were waiting for. I don't know how long that happened because the conversation came probably like day 4. So I don't know what they were waiting for. Oh, a holiday came up. I think it might have been, was it Valentine's Day? What's another holiday after that? President's Day. President's Day came up. So we had to wait, until the Tuesday. Yeah, we had to wait till that Tuesday. That's why. So the conversation came up over the weekend. We had to wait until Tuesday, until everyone returned from holiday to get the surgery done. The one all over again that initially stopped his heart. Nobody was jumping to say, hey, yeah, let's do it again. No, it was more so like, yo, do he even need, like, y'all can figure out something else. Read the books, read your textbooks, call every doctor in the nation. Let's have a Zoom meeting. Like, what's up? He went down to go get the surgery. I didn't eat. I fasted for 24 hours. I prayed. I prayed the whole entire time. The whole entire time. And then, like, there was a time when I didn't understand. I didn't understand that I wasn't. Gosh, what did I understand? I'm trying to get my words out. There was a time where I wasn't spiritually mature in Christ, right? So, like, I recognize I wasn't where I am now. So when you pray around certain people that don't, they think that the truth, which is the word that doesn't change from the living God, is an opinion. Like, oh, you can change it just to convenience them. You recognize, like, hey, I've been in this position before. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but now is not the time to have no weak people, because the Bible says people perish for lack of knowledge. And just because you don't know doesn't mean that you are like you have immunity from it, from the consequences. So I didn't have time to teach nobody the Bible and say, hey, drinking coffee while we praying is not, that's not how we reach God. I mean, that's not how we do this. That's not how we fight back in the realm of the spirit when we're under attack like this. That's not how we do it. You have to completely dry fast. Like, nothing goes in your mouth. Not your vitamins, not your medication. High blood pressure is just going to have to wait. Diabetes is going to have to wait. That the fact that you're sleeping, you need a little bit of coffee, that's gonna have to wait. That tic tac because your breath stink, that's gonna have to wait. We serious. We gotta warn the spirit. Like, we don't need to call prayer warriors to do it. You can actually be a warrior yourself and just put on the full armor of God, turn down your plate, and let's go ahead and let's get this thing out. So I just did it. I did it in silence. I just, like I'm supposed to. It was between me and God that I was fasting for 24 hours straight. And I prayed the whole entire time. I was anxious about nothing. I can't say that I wasn't actually anxious, but I will say that I said that Bible verse and I meditated on it enough. Every time an anxious thought came in my mind, or every time a negative thought came in my mind, like, is he going to make it kind of thing, I said the verse that it says, take every negative thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. I said that every time. Even when I felt like if I felt my emotions just shift, I said that then. And I just kept, that's just how I try to keep those thoughts at bay and just stay positive. And that's why the doctors and nurses saw positivity from me, because that's just who I am. I am a kind person. I'm very gentle. And then, it just so happened that that person is going through this and they were expecting to see something different, but God you saw the God in me, right? So, but it was hard. It was hard. It's not a lie. It was hard. So anyway, I probably was so annoying to the surgeons. Every surgeon that was supposed to be in that room, every surgeon that was in that room, I probably talked to. I figured it out. Lord, no, I'm lying, because in the first room, when he actually had his heart stop, let me tell you how anointing this was, right? There were 30 doctors in the room when it happened. They said, all those 5 doctors that came in, they said the same thing. It was 30 doctors in the room. And there were doctors that flew in from the country to be the best of the best. And it just so happened that everybody was at work that day that was, like, notable in their field. Not just experts, but honorary, like, notable surgeons in their field were in that room that day. So he had nothing but the A team, like the best of the best of the best of the best that day, because it just so happened that all of them were in the room that day for like a thing. So he had the best of the best on him. Then it was 30 different people because they had 5 team from heart because they were going through his heart, 5 team from lungs because they had the lungs, 5 team from, IC critical care because they had this, 5 team from this because they needed oxygen, 5 team for this because he needed blood. So it ended up being 30 doctors, and then they said they couldn't even count how many nurses was around. And of course, the people that have to stare and sit at the screen, the machine that supported his life for 24 hours straight, they were all there too. And the respiratory people for his breathing. All in the room. I don't even know how big this room is. Don't even want to see the room. Don't want a vision of the room. Don't need none of that. But that's what was going on, and that was miraculous. So I had that same vision in my head for him going back down there. And everybody that I could talk to, I did. And I told them to make sure my baby comes back to me. Make sure you do everything you can and treat him like he's your child. And I said in the kindest way. I did. I know I sound a little aggressive right now, but I did not in that moment because what can I do? I could not do anything. I could not even go over to touch him. In a way that I felt comfortable doing because I didn't want to unplug the machine. So all I had was my prayers and my words. And these doctors in front of me, and I was like, just hope that settled in to the point where they would listen and they would have a heart and they would fix his. I heard God say, give me the sacrifice of praise. So I went into the chapel. The first thing I heard in the chapel was like I don't know, I get this wrong, but it was like Indian or Hindu music. And I was like, let me pull this demonic stuff. Oh, sorry, yank the thing out. I turned it off and it was still playing. I was like, how is it still playing? Like, that's some demonic stuff. So I unplugged it and I started playing on my phone. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. And I kept playing it and playing it and playing it and playing it until it lifted in my spirit. And I got brave, the courage, the faith, and I recognized, like, even though I was in the middle of a storm and I was battling and I did not know what the outcome was, I did not worry, because worry is worship to the devil. Okay, like, he wants you to worry. And then worshiping the Lord, I gave him the sacrifice of praise, because we that's what he told me to do. So he goes down there, and the doctor that came in the surgery, the one I was looking at, like, yeah, what's up? Why you here? He came back again. Oh, he came back all the time. And he was like, hey, I'm going to do surgery. No, another doctor came, which is a woman, and I really couldn't understand her that much, but she was the best heart surgeon there is, like, named all across the country in the medical world. She does perfect incisions, and she was to close his chest and take out the draining tube that was here. And then the other doctor that I was looking at him like all crazy, he was supposed to go back to his neck and actually put the machine that he's supposed to actually need in his lungs. So I talked to them. They said it was going to be great. He was all chippery and bubbly about it. He felt really good about it. And I was just like, yeah, everybody felt good about it then. But I just didn't want to say anything, because what is it? You eat from the fruit of your words. Like, there's life and death in the power of the tongue. You eat from the fruit of your words. So I wanted to make sure the fruit of my fruit was all positivity, was all a good outcome, was all according to what God had planned for Christian, and that was, not to harm him. And he said he was good. So I'm holding on to his promise, because his word cannot come void. Just like rain does not return back to the sky, and snow doesn't, and he doesn't break his covenant with the sun and the moon, like, to make it daylight and night. Like, he was not going to break his altar, the words that came from his lips when he told me he was good. So that all boosted my confidence, and we went in, and I don't think I was breathing. I didn't eat. I didn't anything. I stayed in one spot, and I prayed the whole entire time. I had a list of prayers. I made some prayers that was like boom, 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 assassin in the realm of the spirit. I had some Bible verses about his promises specifically for the situation and others, and for the fact of like, okay, depression, anxiety, all those things that can come about from this. You're not answering my body, you're not answering my family. I had to stand in the gap and repent for everybody worrying about him, repent for everything that I did, the things that I didn't even do that was on my bloodline. Like, I just went to make sure I was pure and clean. I did that before his first surgery, and then going into this one, I did it even harder for this one. So that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. So finally, the doctor, which he knew I needed, God made him call me up. And he says, "Hi." And I'm like, don't play with me. I don't care how happy you are. I want to be happy too. Like, he's like, "Hi, is this Nicole? Well, it's Christian's mom. I want to let you know the surgery went well, so well. He's doing great. And right now, Dr. Such and Such, which I can't remember her name, and I feel so bad because she's awesome. He said, now we're just going to close his chest. But it went well. He's great. And then he should be back to you really soon, because that's actually a really short procedure, and he'll be back to you guys really soon. Just want to let you know myself that he's done, and he did great. It went well, and we can't wait to see you." And I'm like, oh, big sigh of relief. I'm like, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Yeah, he's good. He survived. You got this. He said he's good. So he comes back up, and the man that's bringing him, well, he didn't come back to cardiovascular ICU. Did he go back? No, he went down to the regular ICU, PICU. And as he's getting pushed down to the ICU, tell me why the man had on a doctor's coat. He opens up the doctor's coat, y'all. It's an S on his chest, because he has on a Superman shirt. Like, out of all the things that could have been underneath your coat, and you got hot because y'all was moving all these heavy machines trying to make sure my baby was good, you got an S on your chest. And God had told me already when we first got there that he was going to have an S on his chest, and he literally got something on his chest, and it's a mark, and it's Superman. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all, I sent him down there with some Superman stickers. I didn't understand it, but I understand it now. Then I just did it because I ended up taking another walk finally, and I went to the garden to get a breath of fresh air, and I came back, and I saw some Superman stickers in the open, and it was the only ones. And I'm like, wow, like, God, you just dropping breadcrumbs of signs and miracles and wonders. So I put the stickers on him. The surgeons were nice, and they kept it on him. His school teacher also came up with a lot of toys from every student from his class and the parents. And oh my gosh, and a gift card so we can eat. They had a Paw Patrol toy, and the toy, even, it's the craziest thing, even though he was asleep, he still clenched on the teddy bear. So they took the teddy bear down to the operating room, and he came back up with the teddy bear, and it was like, that never happens. Every time any kid have anything, when they're going to the operating room, it never comes back upstairs. They lose it. And they made sure, and everybody screamed, make sure he has his Paw Patrol. And the Paw Patrol went with him, and he had a little bit of blood on him too, so from the surgery. So even now, like, it didn't come out in the wash because I didn't have any peroxide at the hospital. So that happened. So anyway, it was just, I was still doing like this, trying to get through it, but God was just showing me, like, you good. He showed me Superman. Then when we got to the ICU, the guy with the shirt, I took a picture of him, I snapped it. Then I'm looking, and the woman, one of the nurses, she just came in for the day to do her shift. She has a Wonder Woman logo. Okay, I don't know if y'all see that. Wonder Woman logo on her book bag. God said I'm Superwoman. And I'm like, Wonder Woman. I'm a superhero. And I can breathe. Like, I can just see these little things that just gave me hope. That gave me, like, perseverance to keep doing, long suffering, enduring, like the patience to get through this, the fruit of the spirit, right? So we get there to ICU. They wean him off a little bit of medication, and what does that mean? That means he can wake up. So he was up, but he does not remember anything that happened. And I'm thankful to every doctor there, that right now he does not know what happened to him, because they made it that way. And it really helped with his healing. But he knows that he's a miracle. Yes, he does. Um, he knows what God did and how powerful God is, and how powerful your faith is, and how powerful prayer and fasting is, and how amazing all those doctors are. Um, yeah, he loves Children's Hospital, but yeah, they gave him, I don't know. So anyway, he was able to wake up, and that was the time that I finally, after 7 weeks of living this, I finally got to speak to my baby. And I was all in his face, because that meant when he woke up and they moved that other machine out the way, they was able to do this, and I was able to get over into this little hut, and I was over there, and I was able to kiss on him and say hi without feeling like I'm gonna mess something up, because he was all right. He was up, you know. Oh man, it was a mess, hot mess express. Mm-mm-mm. So that wasn't the end of it. Um, then we went to, where did we go after that? It was another part. Oh, we went to the regular part of the hospital. Then we had to do rehab for 3 weeks. Because typically the rule of thumb is, if you had been in the hospital for an extended period of time, you have 1 week for every day that you have been in the hospital. We have been in the hospital for almost 3 months. So they projected that we will be in rehab learning to eat. So, his lungs had to learn how to breathe on their own without like assistance. He had to learn how to swallow and eat and speak again. He had to learn how to stand again, how to go to the bathroom again, how everything you can think of. You had to sit up straight again, like by himself. Anything you could think of, he had to learn how to do it. I mean, they started the therapy in the hospital, but we had to go to the actual facility and live there. Again, was not leaving until my baby left. Was going home with me. I wasn't going home until my baby went home. Okay. So, let me tell you about this one time. There was one time I left the hospital when we were in the cardiovascular ICU. And I let them all beef me up. He was good. Everything was stable. His chest was still open. No. His chest was it open or closed? It was closed, and we were about to move down to the hospital, and the guy showed up with the Superman. I'm just trying to get my words together. So they talked me into it. It's like, hey, Target's really just up the street. So if you go to Target, you can just go to. And at that point, I like Target at that point. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me get some fresh air, because this is a whole lot to deal with. We just kept going back to back to back. Every time that something happened, they had a solution for it. However, there was a 1% chance something would go wrong, because that's what I told them to tell me. However, but every time we were met with that 1% thing that could have gone wrong. We had to experience it, and that was the worst thing in the world. So I'm like, yo, I just for my mentality, I think I need to look at something else besides walking to my room and seeing these other children in critical condition for other things that I can. You're not supposed to know what's going on, but yeah, you can't turn off your ears if you overhear something, you know. You know what it is. And then of course when you're out in the common areas in the family room, because we couldn't eat in the room we were in the SICU, You know, the family, they're either on the phone or they're crying, or you know what's going on because you probably just talk to them. You know, you're social. You want to uplift somebody else. Um, so it was just hard. It was hard seeing that every day, and I just needed to see the sun. You know, so I got talked into it. I hated it. As soon as I walked out the hospital, I hated it. I wanted to go back in, and I talked so much junk. I was just like, "Oh my god, I gotta go with my baby. I can't be here. Oh my gosh, I hated it." So his dad just tuned me out because he needed that break too, and he didn't even listen to me. He was just happy to feel some sun on his face, and I was just like, "Take me back. No, 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 I can't do this. I don't want to do it." So I had him on Zoom the whole time, and I'm holding the camera, just staring at him, and he's not even up, but I'm just making sure everything is good because I couldn't take it. We ended up getting into Target in DC, and my signal goes out, the Zoom goes off. Now I told the nurse, like, call me if anything goes. I'm running back because we're like, it was just 8 minutes of drive away. And the reason why it was 8 minutes is because if you ever been to see DC, or you from DC, you know there's one-way street. So what could take you 3 minutes to get, you got to go this way, 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 this way to get there. So 8 minutes, 3 minutes turned into 8. So I'm like, dude, I would sprint there if something's wrong. So anyhow, I lose a signal, and you know I am not having it. I'm fed up. I'm ready to go. F Target. I don't care. Like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I had enough. I seen enough. I did enough. I'm good at this point. Like, I came out. But I really did need some stuff. Like, you've been, after being in the hospital for, you need some stuff. I need some stuff from Target, like important stuff, and I didn't give a goddamn if I had it or not. Okay, so I got them. Outside of my will, I got them. I had yeah, I got them, and I didn't feel better until we checked out because that meant I was going back to the hospital, which was home. Got in the car, and I was like, ah, I did it. So I'm feeling proud of myself. I'm walking up to the hospital. I let the windows down. I sniffed the air a little bit. And I'm like, dang, it's summer or something. Like, the sun is out. We came in, it was winter. And now it's actually spring and allergies are out and all this stuff. I'm like, we didn't see this. I don't need a coat. Okay. Um, and as I'm walking back with a sense of relief to our room, I see every doctor and every nurse in his room frantically running to his room, putting stuff in, moving fast, going out. And I'm like, oh, I drop every bag I had and I run down to the room, and I find a surgeon standing over him because he's turned away of critical, not regular. That's how you know who's bad and who's not in the ICU. I pray that you never even experienced that or need to know that. So there's a surgeon over top of him. His blood everywhere. They got a cooler full of his blood. Not his blood, but blood for him to use another transfusion, which was a part of the transfusion I already counted. Because he's losing blood from the surgery he just had a couple days ago. And I'm like, nurse, you didn't call me? She says, I was a little busy. And I'm like, okay, I respect, you know, but I'm not leaving this hospital, and don't you ever tell me to do it again. Don't encourage me. Don't come in here. I don't even care if you give me 100% off coupon for everything at my favorite store. I don't care. I'm not going. I can give a goddamn. Got it? Mm-hmm. So I tried to put my toe in the water. I did not like it. I never left that hospital again, and I went back to my word. I am not leaving here until my baby leaves, because that was a hot mess. Okay, so I heard God say to fast for 24 hours. And I'm like, oh my gosh, something's about to happen. So I'm all in my own understanding, like trying to figure it all out. Like, oh my gosh, something's about to happen. Why I gotta fast for 24 hours? Can I fast? Like, I'm eating now. I'm good. Like, what? 24 hours? So I hurry up and mute that. I silence it, and I said, you know what? Yes, I'm obedient. Yes. And I was like, Lord, give me supernatural obedience. Let me pull me through this, not by might, not by power, not but by Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. And I do it, and I don't have any expectations. I don't have any prayers, requests. I don't have nothing. I just do it out of full obedience. I have no idea what's about to happen, but let me just go ahead and just do it. And then after I did it, I still didn't like see what was going on. Like we didn't have anything going. Like he was just on a ventilator, he was on a life support machine. There was nothing really new happening. It was just, you know, time was just going by where we were in the hospital for now. I don't know, he was on a life support machine for like 7 weeks. So I asked God and I was like, hey, can you tell me why you told me to fast for 24 hours? Because I didn't know, is it for me? Like, I just want to know. Like, there's no mysteries. Like, just let me know. So I didn't hear anything immediately, but 2 days later, I did. A nurse came over to me and she just looked, like, you just notice something's wrong. Your discernment just tell you something's wrong. So she's like, "Oh, it's good to see you," because our story went through the whole entire hospital. Everyone knew about it. Pretty much every nurse had worked with us because again, we've been in there for so many weeks that throwing out the rotation, we pretty much worked with all the nurses, all the doctors. So they knew us and they knew our story because it was just unique. It was powerful. The doctors could not explain it. It was supernatural. It was only God all through it. So she was like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, I mean, yeah, we're good. We're good. He came out of surgery. He's great. And then she said, okay. And I was just like, what's wrong? And she said, your story is nothing but a miracle. And I said, you know what? To God be the glory, because I ain't do anything. It's all God. This is all for honoring God. And then not only that, but I pray for rippling effect of miracles throughout the whole entire ICU. My voice is so deep right now because I need water. Anyway, I pray for rippling effects through all the ICU of miracles, 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 miracles. So, and I said I fasted for 24 hours on this day, and I told her about it. Now, you don't tell people about it while you're fasting, but I don't know. I just felt moved, and I heard Holy Spirit tell me to tell her to fast, so I did it. Because you don't tell people, because that's just the glory that you get for being so righteous and saying, "Hey, I'm fasting." It's like, no, that's between you and God. It's private. Unless it's like a corporate led one by your church and everyone's doing it together, but other than that, it's just between you and God. So I well, not just by your church, but by people that you're doing it with. But whatever, that's for another video. This is what I was led to say it because Holy Spirit told me to, and I did. And then she starts bawling, crying. Like, she was like, I can't tell you what happened. And I was like, what? But she was like, when? And I told her when, and she was like, wow. And she said it was a miracle that happened, and we didn't even think that it would be the boy would overcome, but he did. So I asked God again. I said, hey, can you tell me what happened? Because I'm like, now I really want to know. Like, why you tell me to do this? And I kind of got, like, now I'm getting breadcrumbs, but she couldn't tell me because she wasn't at liberty to say. So I'm like, he told me. And basically, I was walking through the hall and I overheard some stuff. And then also he had told me, and it was just putting the pieces together, that someone actually, I think a little baby died, a boy died on the way to the operating room in the elevator, and they had to resuscitate him in the elevator. It didn't look like he was going to survive, didn't look like he was going to pull through, and he did. And she was on shift, she was his nurse at the time, and it was just very overwhelming for her. And she just needed a second to just breathe and smoke 15 cigarettes, because that's how crazy it was. I'm not even sure if she's a smoker, I'm just saying. So I'm just like, thank you, Lord. Thank you for just using me in that moment. And I was just grateful for where I am in my journey, that I was just able to be used, and I understood what that meant. Okay, so here's our praise report. After 10 weeks of being in the hospital, from ICU to critical care to neurology to everywhere we were, all the all the things. I am thankful to be able to report that even though his heart stopped for 30 minutes, and I don't know if you know, but like 3 minutes, you can have severe brain damage if you hadn't had oxygen flowing to your brain. He was that This happened for 30 minutes, and God was gracious enough to resurrect and restore him like it never happened. If you see Christian, you would never think anything happened at all. Ugh, it was just wow, just the overwhelming. I don't have the words. I don't have the words. I'm not even going to try to fill words in right now. I just want you to know that it's like it never happened. The only thing that feels like it happened is the fact that, you need sleep. Your life has changed. Accommodations changed. Your body feel all rough. Acne all over my face. Well, you probably don't see it right now because it's covered, but it's acne everywhere. It's war rooms. It's everything. But it's like it's never happened. Fully restored by the grace of God. And I tell this story because so many people's lives can be changed from a testimony. It needs to be said. That is glory to God. Like, that's what we go through things for, to have a testimony. So if you're going through a storm and you've gotten out of it, if you're in the storm, share, 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 share. If you've gone through a storm and you've gotten out of it, share, share, share. We need more testimonies, and that's war against the demonic realm, to have a testimony of what God has done in our lives. Please share your testimony. And also send this message to the last 10 people you texted, the last 5 people, the same group of people that you always share reels with on Instagram. Send this link to them and just get the message out that there is light in the middle of darkness. God is a restorer. He's an overcomer. Children's Hospital is amazing. The doctors are amazing. Even if you just thought this story was interesting, just share it, send it around, and it will probably bless somebody. Who knows? Thank you so much for listening. And just check the links down in this description box because I've put a few little surprises up in there for you. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hearing our story. Thanks for sharing this journey with us. And I hope it blesses you. I hope it blesses your family. And bye, guys.